Shalom from Israel, dear family and friends, and we've come to Habakkuk chapter 3 in marking the promises of God in our Bibles. And the just shall live by faith, that we talked about the quoting 3 times in the New Testament of verse 4, the last part of verse 4 of chapter 2, but the just shall live by his faith. And what I was trying to show you, it was a little confusing, that the earliest time it's quoted in the New Testament, it has to do with justification, the just. And then in Hebrew it's the just by his faith shall live. Hatzadik be'emunato yichyeh. And so the next time it's quoted, about 10 years later, in the book of Romans, it's emphasizing the middle part of that verse, faith. And then the last time it's quoted, about 70 AD or a little before, in the book of Hebrews, it's emphasizing live. So the just shall live by faith. In his faith he shall live. So even the way it chronologically, historically works out, that verse is emphasized in 3 different ways in the New Testament. The just shall live by faith. Chapter 3, a prayer of Habakkuk, the prophet, upon shigionot. Akshav, shigayon in Hebrew means craziness. Shigionot could mean that this is a musical psalm that is meant to be accompanied by a really lively or wild instrumentation or music. Shigionot, it's also, you can see in Psalm chapter 7, talks about Shigionot. And this prayer of the prophet, O Lord, I have heard thy speech and I was afraid. O Lord, Yahweh, revive thy work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make known in wrath, remember mercy. Now, the midst of the years, every place we go in the Bible is talking about the fulfillment and the outworking of the Abrahamic covenant. So it's reasonable to assume here that the midst of the years is Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, where it says that he'll make a covenant with the Jewish people. The anti-Messiah will make a covenant agreement for 1 week, but in the middle of the week, he'll stop the sacrifice and offering. And so it could be that in the midst of that tribulation period of 7 years, that the Jewish people start to turn and seek God in earnest. But the prophet here is praying and singing for God to remember to show mercy in the midst of the years. And basically, all of chapter 3 is a promise. All of chapter 3 is a promise. So mark the whole chapter, I guess, especially the last few verses. Look at verse number 13, particularly mark that. Thou wentest forth for salvation, for the salvation of thy people. Yeshuat Amcha, you went for the salvation of your people, even for the salvation of your anointed. Thou woundest the head out of the house of the wicked by discovering the foundation unto the neck, Selah. And so here we see anything that opposes itself, sets itself against the outworking of the Abrahamic covenant, that means God's plan in history to redeem all nations through the Jewish people, it will itself be destroyed. Verse 12, art thou not from everlasting, O Lord Adonai Yahweh, my God, my Holy One? We shall not die. We shall not die, and the Jewish people will not die.